From the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in downtown Manchester, New Hampshire, you are tuned in to the best of Matt Connarton Unleashed. Yeah, I don't know why you couldn't hear us, Fred. Feel free to...
Why can't we go back to talking about Hoppy's children?
Feel free to try again. Hoppy's children?
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't have any children.
Well, yeah, he does.
John Hopwood is my daddy. John Hopwood is my daddy. John Hopwood is my daddy. John. Daddy. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, maybe he does.
Somebody was dying.
I know. Who was that laughing?
Oh, no, they were dying.
Yes. Did you know that other artists did Family Man other than just Hall & Oates? And it's not actually their song?
Yes, I'm well aware that that song has been covered by many people. Because I think I've heard every version from you.
Really?
Yeah. There was a good 6 months there where you were playing that all the time. Every day.
Maybe this is Fred calling again. Let's see. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
It's your old pal, Fred, hopefully.
Oh,
Hey!
Fred, yes. We can hear you, and obviously...
it's real hard to hear you.
Yeah, I don't know why. Are you in a vehicle? Are you currently traveling?
Yeah, I'm in a vehicle, but I'm holding my cell phone.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, Fred. What's on your mind,
It's
sir?
okay. Well, what I wanted to say was it was interesting how everybody asked Elizabeth Warren, speaking of last night, because that's what I started the call about way back then. Elizabeth Warren, when they're all concerned about, because she won't say that she'll tax the middle class, because Bernie said it would be a tax. Well, the interesting part about it is it's how you pay for something. The insurance company,
right?
Or you pay it in a tax. I mean, and if you pay it in a tax, it will be less than if we pay it to the insurance company.
Right.
And we already pay for Medicare out of our paychecks as it is. So
right.
You don't have to make an insurance payment, and your boss doesn't have to make an insurance payment, and you can negotiate that cash back into your, because it's a benefit.
Right.
People give you insurance as a benefit to entice you to work for them. Now they can give you more cash because they don't have to pay for the benefit.
Right. Yeah,
that's the way it works,
But why couldn't she communicate that during the debate? I wonder.
Well, she tried to say that. I mean, that was what she was saying.
Yeah.
She was saying, "I'm not going to sign something that's going to cost more than it does now," and it's how you pay. Basically, the same thing even Bernie said. Yes, it's going to raise the taxes because that's the part that we're going to pay. But we're not going to be paying money to the insurance company. So you take your insurance payment and you send it to the government instead. That's all.
Yeah.
And it'll be less because everybody's in.
Yeah, for whatever reason, Bernie seemed to be much more able to just kind of boil it down into a couple of sentences than she was able to,
well,
it
he's
seems
been doing
like.
it for a long time.
That's true. That's a good point, yes.
Well, that's because Bernie
he's got it down.
more honest.
He's got the 5-minute death presentation down. He's cut out all the middle chaff and said, this is what we need to do. We need to make sure we have child care for people,
Right.
John Hopwood is
that
here.
Kind of stuff.
I don't know if you heard John.
Hey, John, how are you?
Hi. These are policies that Bernie's been for since I first heard about him in 1974 when I was 14 years old, and he's running for governor in Vermont. My father used to live up in Burlington, Vermont. So these are his policies, and
right. Oh, they all are. They're all using his policies. You're right.
He is a social democrat, although he's never really called himself that. He calls himself a socialist, like a Norman Thomas socialist, and he is who he is.
That's certainly that word scares people.
Yes.
Oh, it always has. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any other?
Thanks, John.
Well, yeah, Bernie, this is his policy. He's this isn't something he has to make up or apologize for. You're never going to see Bernie back down, about something that he's been. This is basically him for 40 or more years.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Did you have any other thoughts on the debate, Fred?
Well, with that, it's The problem with that I find with Beto, and I do like the man, and I don't know if I'd want him for president, but I do like the man, and I wish he would run for senator and get some experience,
right,
and then go do this again, and then he'd have a little, he'd have the spirit and the knowledge,
right.
But
good point
for me. The thing about the guns thing, as scary as it sounds, and it really does sound scary, because I know people. I mean, I grew up in a house with 90 guns. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing they're going to get that's going to work. I mean, when you think about it, if we don't get rid of the guns, those, people are just going to keep killing each other. 40,000 people die of guns each year, and that doesn't happen other places. We got to figure out something. And if it means, okay, everybody, look, are we okay with 40,000 deaths a year or not?
I guess we are.
And if it's your kid that's dead, it means more to you than if it's somebody else's kid. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
true. But if
true.
it happened in your school, that's the problem. I mean, kids get shot in school. That's scary. I can understand, they were at a party in a bar, but no, they're at school.
It did happen to my neighbors. I lived in Danbury, Connecticut, and Sandy Hook was the next town over. But I used to be a member of the NRA, but I quit. I would just, limit it to military class weapons, and you don't need a sniper rifle.
Right.
And
I think realistically,
and
the most.
Okay, that's what he
said. One of the problems we have is we do have a Second Amendment, and there was a great article.
Why is the Second Amendment a problem?
I didn't say there was a problem.
Well, yes, you did. That's exactly what you just said.
Well, the problem of that would be the Second Amendment. There's a great article from 1992. It was by a liberal. It was in the Law Review Journal that's been a right, and it's on most of the state constitutions of the time. Mm-hmm. You just can't deny that is a right.
Yeah.
But, of course, no right's absolute. There's no the right, the First Amendment. You can't defame, libel, defamation. Child pornography is so abhorrent, it has a lesser standard when it comes to, indicting people for that and everything. And you can't argue that's free speech. It's covered.
Right. These rights are not absolute, and you can restrict and regulate them.
I believe, you have a right to a gun, but it's reasonable. It has to be reasonable. Because I've lived in state, I believe in the right to have and bear an arm, but I don't need a sniper rifle. I don't need an AK-47.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think the most you can realistically hope for, honestly, is a return of the assault weapons ban. But other than that, you're never going to.
With a little bit of teeth in it and universal background check.
Yes,
right.
and no gun show.
Universal background check.
But,
right.
There's no gun show loophole. That is
sitting on the desk.
Hanging bull.
That's not true. I've seen no people.
I've been to umpteen gun shows, and they all get background checks. Nobody gets handed a gun in a New Hampshire gun show without getting a background check.
In Texas, they do.
I'm not in Texas. I'm here in New Hampshire. There's no gun show loophole in the state of New Hampshire. So don't throw that out there.
No, I know people that bought guns in Texas at gun shows.
Can you sell a gun in New Hampshire to your neighbor?
That has nothing to do with a gun show. There's a difference between a private sale and a gun show. Yes, I can sell.
Well, no, but
by law, if a person is known to me as a resident of the state of New Hampshire, and I know that they can legally possess a firearm, I can sell that firearm to them, or they can sell a firearm to me if I meet the standard as well.
And somebody
that's true in the state of New Hampshire. However, if you're going to use that as your yardstick, then you want to explain to me why every other state that isn't allowed in has more gun crime than the state of New Hampshire.
Listen, I've lived in these states, and there's one thing that
I've never lived anywhere but New Hampshire, John.
Well, I'm not saying. I've lived in plenty of states, and one of the things when I belonged to the NRA, I used to write letters and everything, it's in, when there is a level of guns, like in, say, Dallas or Houston, there's higher crime. And guns from New Hampshire are all over the eastern seaboard.
Oh,
that's been true. What are you saying? That's true. Since 1970.
You want to make changes to our society that are actually going to enact change instead of a bunch of let's make everybody have feel-good legislation. Then why don't you get parents to be parents again and stop sending their kids off to the warehouse of school for parents to not pay any attention, for teachers to not be allowed to discipline and have to basically babysit your brat who doesn't have any manners, who doesn't have any value of life because they haven't been raised with it. We stopped raising our kids with basic moral values. And that is the biggest problem we have in society. And until we start addressing the real issue, it's not going to change the violence. You can take away
That's not true, because I've seen violence in my lifetime.
Take away the AK. What is the next thing that somebody's going to use? Somebody bent on doing a crime is going to do it no matter what they have to do to make it happen.
But that's
why
true.
They're criminals.
That's not true. You can't.
Oh, please. That's not true.
I've been around guns probably longer than you've been alive, and I've been in the military.
Just because you're old doesn't mean you're smart.
I know what a military-style weapon, an assault weapon, can do. I know the entire philosophy of it.
So you're aware that some of these assault weapon laws were written so stupidly they actually outlawed some 22s? Because of their appearance? Because of their appearance?
A 22 can pierce our
So you want it, you're in favor of banning a 22, which is the smallest caliber bullet you can get.
That's not even what I'm saying.
Well, you just said that.
No, I didn't say
I gave you a perfect example of where the assault weapons ban failed, and that's what you give me.
How did it
New
fail?
Jersey literally had it on the books that you could
Why are you
could
so
not
passionate
own a
about
22
guns?
Because I am very passionate about the ability to defend yourself. I have been in the situation with my infant son, and the only thing between the criminal, my son, and me was the gun that I had in my lap. I don't need
in your pocketbook.
I don't carry an AK in my pocketbook. No, and I didn't. I don't necessarily.
So all I'm saying is, what would you need to protect yourself in any urban setting?
Whatever I damn well feel is necessary.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it is.
You will end up killing somebody down
as a weapon
in anger.
Whatever I pick up as a weapon to defend myself
in the street without having some kind of a
nobody said anger.
Have you ever fired a weapon in anger?
Absolutely not. I can legitimately sit here, stare at you, and tell you absolutely.
So you don't know how.
Not.
So you don't know what you're going to do in that situation.
I do know that in that situation, in that moment, my adrenaline and my emotion wasn't anger. It was fear. I was in fear for my life and the life of my son, and I had no escape out of that apartment.
I believe people have a right to firearms.
And you know what? That was in Massachusetts, and the police officer who was on the phone with me knew full well I had the firearm and encouraged me to make sure that I had it correctly, because they could hear it in the background. As fast as they were trying to get an officer to me in the middle of downtown Plymouth, Massachusetts.
And did that stop? What was the firearm?
It was actually a 22.
And that stopped the situation.
That was what it was between me.
So you don't need an AK-47.
I never said that I did. What I said to you, John, if you were listening, was that the assault weapons bans were not necessarily written correctly. If you want to make a specific AK illegal, then talk about that. I'm telling you that the laws were written.
All 22s weren't eliminated, were they? The type of
Yes,
weapon
you're
you
right.
had
You're
wasn't
exactly right. The NRA made sure they got to tell what
let Fred say something here.
Say that again,
You're
Fred.
saying that all 22s are banned, but your 22 wouldn't have been banned.
Yes, because the NRA helped write those laws. That's why.
I'm no fan of the NRA.
And the thing is, and 1 second, one second. The thing about universal background checks is, and like you said, well, you can sell a gun to somebody you know. Well, here's the deal. You don't necessarily know somebody unless they get a background check.
Right.
I mean, that's the truth. You may think you know somebody, but you don't necessarily know somebody. And so everybody that has a gun, I'm okay with it if you have a gun. I don't care. I have a gun. But you got to be able to pass a universal background check, period. And it doesn't mean
the law
anyway. Give your son a gun.
The law already exists on the books, which we can easily put into action. If you cannot legally own and possess a firearm under the law, under both state and federal law, you are a criminal. Period.
So what?
What do you mean, so what?
So what?
What does that mean?
Why can you buy one?
If I can't legally possess a firearm, if I cannot legally possess a firearm, I can't legally pass the background check.
That doesn't make sense.
Oh, for God's sakes. It does to me. I don't know what your problem is.
I can't sell you one.
Whiteboard.
I can sell you a gun if you can't pass the background check. I can legally sell you a gun.
No.
I don't have to know
by
you.
law, you've
all
just
I have to know is that you said you wanted to buy a gun.
That's not true.
I don't have to have paperwork. I don't have to have anything.
You're talking about
Right?
you're talking about
Show me
privately.
where my law here in the state of New Hampshire that is perfectly fine with that has caused an increase in gun crime by comparison to where you're pointing it out. Because everywhere that you can point to that has laws restricting that actually has a higher gun crime rate than the state of New Hampshire.
That's not true.
Look at
Here's the
actual,
reason why that's
instead
not
of
true.
using hyperbole,
The state has the highest-
instead of
New
blowing
Hampshire.
everything
Death
up,
rate.
look at actual reality.
The
What
state
we're
has
Crime
the
has
living
gone
in.
up
highest
in New
death rate.
Hampshire.
Are not,
I have a right
is
to
not
defend myself.
Illinois.
That's not that. But
It's
they're
not
not talking
Chicago.
about that.
That may be a town with a lot.
Chicago has
you
some
know
of the
where
strictest
one of
gun laws in
highest
the
ones
country.
is?
How's that
Is
working
in
out for
Missouri.
them there, buddy?
It always did.
Really? It's really always working out
You know
for them?
why they have laws? Because they are hyper violent, just like New York City.
Chicagoans are hyper violent?
Have you ever lived there? Have you ever? I have.
Really?
But see, you're making these false syllogisms.
No,
they
I'm
have,
not.
They have the laws because they have a great deal of crime.
It is. Do it
and
a
you
lot
want to know
for
something?
them.
In New Hampshire,
New
violent
Jersey,
crime
New Jersey,
has gone up.
some of the strictest gun laws in the country. How's their gun crime rate?
Well, when
And
you
they're
ha-
the ones
when
that
you have
actually
guns
used an
coming in
assault
from New
weapons ban
Hampshire
to
or
make it
Texas.
22 illegal, but a 50 cal was legal. So there's where your smartness goes in this legislation.
What you're saying is not logically true.
That is true. Go look it up.
You're
Go
taking
look it up. That is
not
an actual
22.
fact.
It
That
doesn't
is a
ban
fact.
all. You're saying
New
it banned all
Jersey
22.
New Jersey
Yeah,
passed
all
an assault
22s were
weapons ban.
banned.
In that ban, due to the descriptors, they ended up banning
So you
a 22.
can't buy in New Jersey a Ruger
They've changed
22
their
pistol. That's
they
not
changed
true.
their law, but look it up.
What's
That
the
is
caliber of
an
an
actual fact.
M16?
Listen to me,
223.
buddy. I'm not sitting here playing
223.
guessing games with you. I'm telling you an actual fact of law.
But
If you
it's
don't
not.
believe me, get out your little smarty phone and Google
You're
it.
saying that they banned 22s. All 22s?
They did.
All 22s were banned.
Listen to me, buddy.
No, what you
Semi-automatics.
New Jersey
You can't have
screwed up
New Jersey
when they
and
passed a
semi-automatic
law.
rifles.
And that
using
can't be
fear.
righted, huh?
Yes, it can be righted. However, this is the stupidity that happens when you use fear to institute law rather than logic and science.
Tell me about how the gun violence has gone up in Manchester and the state of New Hampshire in this decade.
Yeah,
Which
what
it
else
has.
has gone up?
Oh, which has?
Really? What do you put on? What has caused that, John? What changed? Did our
No,
gun
why
laws
don't you
change?
say?
No, our gun laws didn't change. Did our criminal codes change? No, that didn't happen.
I don't know what
changed
happened.
in the state of New Hampshire, John, to bring more violence into
You're
the state
talking
of New
about
Hampshire,
your
John?
law. You just
More
talked about
drugs,
your law.
More drunks.
You just talked about
There's
your law.
your problem.
What law got passed in this? There
The
must
wrong.
be a,
None of
what
nothing
laws
that
got
we.
passed?
What do we have problem here? We have
Jenny?
Manchester being smart and actually stepping up and having safe station, and we have other people trying to shut it down when we're
That
trying to
has-
help the people that are suffering, that are actually the ones that are robbing places because they're desperate for their next fix.
Fred,
The city of
You
Manchester is
said that
actually
there
trying to
was
help.
You said you had your law. What was your law here
Yeah,
in New
Jenny?
Hampshire?
hang on.
Wait.
Let Fred
How,
get
how
in.
do you explain countries with less guns have less in civilized countries have less gun death?
I'm glad you asked me that.
I mean, how
I'm
does
very
that
glad you
work?
asked
I mean,
me that.
in most countries, why
From my
do we
recent-
have so many gun deaths?
From my recent travels
That's the question.
I'm absolutely going to answer the question. From my recent travels in Europe, I will tell you that the biggest things that I have noticed is extraordinarily amount of parental involvement in children. I see children who actually mind their manners and don't behave like they do around here. Nobody was running out with their underwear half hanging out. People actually gave a care about how they carry themselves and how they behave. I don't see the behaviorisms that I see here. I don't see the 13-year-old screaming at the elderly lady and calling her names because they think it's funny. I don't see the zombie walking down the street who's strung out on drugs.
Well, you didn't live in
I
the 1960s.
didn't see any of that. I was all over the place in Europe. I went to small little villages and big cities, and I didn't see that. I didn't see trash in the streets because people actually gave a care and put the trash where it belongs. I didn't see dirty diapers and old furniture laying around because people actually get rid of their stuff. People
You think the
care
kids are better
about
educated?
themselves. They're better.
You think the kids are better educated?
They're absolutely better educated. Every single child I met over there knew how to speak Dutch, knew how to speak English, and a lot of them also knew how to speak Frisian, 3 different languages.
And they probably have good school systems. You know, local.
They all ride their
local
bicycles
and
to
they're all
school. There's no
standardized,
buses.
right?
They don't
In most
bus 'em.
cases, they're standardized.
The kids are they have multiple different school settings. One of the kids I'm aware of is in military school right now. I know of another student that was in a specialty school. They have different schools. They do a lot more recognition of special needs, I think, in some respects than we do. But overall, the biggest difference is people care about themselves. So they spend a lot more money on
education and focus on that, which is probably a good thing, right?
Focusing on what? Education?
Of course. My point
they also have one of the third best healthcare systems in the world where we don't even rank.
Universal education. We have child care, prenatal child care.
They have better medical care.
To do that in this country.
They have better infrastructure. They take better care of their roads. Everybody rides a bicycle pretty much. I mean, there's even 5-year-olds riding a bicycle to school.
How many people live in Netherlands?
Working.
Look it up. I don't know, actually. But I know there's a lot.
Those are very small countries like Denmark. They're not comparable to the United States, which has 330 million people.
Oh, so that somehow is the excuse for us to be rude to one another, to trash our streets, to not give a care about our world? Americans are pigs. I'm embarrassed as an American to come home and realize how piggy we are. Throwing trash out your window, throw your cigarette butt out the car window, dirty diaper in the street. You don't see that there because they actually take pride and they raise their kids to be that way.
Do you think if you live in a section of like Los Angeles, San Francisco, that's upper middle class or rich, that people are pigs? I mean,
you know what? If there's trash all over the street and you're throwing it all out there and you don't give a care about your environment,
there's
you're a pig.
Upper middle class suburbs like Chicago. My father lived there. It's not living in Manchester.
I think if you don't care about the world around you, and that's the example you give the youth,
you're talking about
getting
all
back
America.
What you give.
All America
the youth of today behaves like crap. Because that's what they see the adults doing. We got the president of the United States calling people a-holes. We've got... We're
getting back to Matt Connarton.
Pick your poison. This is what our youth is looking at in America, and boy, we better wake up and pay attention. And the left and the right don't have any corner on the market on this. And I don't care who wants to tell me I'm wrong, be my guest. But when a child understands morality and gives a care, they treat each other better. They don't look to kill each other because they actually value each other's lives.
What about England, where England is more like the United States and Netherlands?
I haven't gone to England, so I'm not going to make a judgment call there yet.
Yeah, but you have people. There's a lot of class conflict.
I personally am not and have
but
people
they don't,
there.
And they did not have a problem with guns till after in the year around the year 2000. There was two events happened. There was an influx of guns from the Yugoslavian wars and the crack trade.
You can keep trying to Band-Aid the world, but this world is not going to get better until we actually start going to the root of our problems and not piecemealing out what our little specialty is.
Now, London has a higher murder rate than New York City, which seems incredible.
Really? Is that true?
Yeah, because I went there.
It's a little city in Texas that might actually top that one.
I went there. I've been there like all my adult life.
Maybe because a lot of people aren't getting murdered in New York.
Not as much as they used to be.
They're getting killed by the cops in Texas. They actually had more crime in that one little town than they have in some nations.
Yeah, well, Texas is pretty wide open.
Oh, why do you have an excuse for everything?
What do you mean why do you say an excuse? Have you lived in Texas? Texas is wide open.
I wouldn't want to. They like to kill people a lot.
Live free or die. Yeah, and that's the thing. You're living there.
Live free or die. It's wide open. People aren't on top of each other, but more people died in one United States city than in a nation.
We're going to...
that's
Fred,
true.
By law-abiding gun owners.
I'll talk to you later, Bob.
There were cops.
All right, Fred. Thank you so much for the call. Take care. All right. Fred Bonig from the Daily Ripple leaves us. Somebody else is... we'll get somebody else in here. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hi, Matt. This is Mary. I have to agree. Jenny, you're right. 100%.
Thank you, sweetheart.
About what?
People throwing their garbage around, because a week ago I saw somebody throw their garbage because somebody gave them something to eat, and they took their garbage and threw it right on the ground.
Yeah.
And I had to say something, and I says to the guy, do you mind picking it up? And it looks a mess. I mean, there's no need of putting it in your backpack, put it anywhere but on the ground. He came back at me. I don't have respect for you or anybody else. He was one of them that was panhandling. And Jenny, I agree with you 100%.
Thank
but
you,
you're talking. What about Palo Alto? I lived in. It didn't have problems like Manchester.
Can we talk about the here and now?
How is Palo Alto not the here now? You talk about the United States.
She
being full of
just called
pigs.
to say what she
But
feels about right
Manchester,
here.
New Hampshire isn't the world.
A person who lives here just called to give you an
It's
opinion of here, and you're on the other side of the freaking country.
But you said the U.S.
Hang on. Let's let Mary go. All right, Mary, thank you for the call,
All
my
right,
friend.
catch you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Manchester, New Hampshire isn't the world, for God's sake. It was like this back when I was a kid in the 70s.
Wait a minute. Didn't you just a few minutes ago claim that all the crime was up and there's a reason for that and that's why we need more gun laws?
I'm asking you.
You just contradicted yourself there, buddy. Pick a side.
No, you're just bulldozer.
No,
Yeah,
I'm not.
You are.
You just completely contradicted the beginning of your own conversation. You
asked
completely
you,
contradicted yourself.
But you said that you're
Matt,
law.
Welcome back to your own show.
I thought you were
did
gonna
he
be talking about
contradict himself
pain.
or not?
I can't get you to agree on any set. See, the problem is you move the ball all the time. It's like 22.
Whatever
all of a
excuse
sudden,
suits your need there, buddy.
why do you keep saying that? There's something called logic. Now,
I know very much what logic
You
is.
can't say that a 20.
I don't need
they
you
ban
to
a 22
educate
because
me,
it
John
was,
Hopwood.
No, but you keep saying the word excuse. You can't
Because you come up
stand
with
being
excuses for every
contradicted.
reason why you can't be right.
No, you can't stand being contradicted.
You can't stand being wrong.
Because what you're saying about the 22, you said they banned all 22s. They didn't. Just because you can bulldoze somebody doesn't make you right.
I'm not bulldozing
Yes, you are.
It's an absolute
Tell me
fact.
what the 22. Oh, you have
look
absolute
it up.
facts.
You got the phone right in front of you. Look it up.
What phone?
New Jersey had I don't know if it still is the case, present day, when they passed their assault weapons ban, the way that they word the stuff out, they actually managed to make a 22 illegal versus a 50 cal.
All 22s. Every 22.
Okay, so the lawyer whose video that I watched who actually expressed this and helped to fight against laws in New Jersey must have been full of it.
Okay, so it's somebody that's fighting against the laws of New Jersey. He would never have a bias.
Dude.
He would never have a bias. No, he would never
When
have a bias.
you're giving a law class on what the gun laws are for your state, you kind of have to stick to the facts.
And what's the fact there? So there's no
because
bias
in that
somebody.
state, it's actually a required class in order to get your license, in order to actually have a gun.
By making funny voices isn't logic. I'm just saying they didn't ban all 22s.
I wasn't making funny voices. I was breathing.
Yeah. You're talking about a video of somebody who is
Look up
biased.
the law, buddy. I read it years ago. I did my homework then. Look it up. You want to say I'm wrong? Prove it. I have nothing to prove.
So all 20, you won't answer, all 22s were banned.
At that period of time,
Every 22.
the long rifle 22 was accidentally screwed up and banned because of the way that they...
That's what you had as a weapon, the long rifle?
You have to remember that laws, when they are written descriptively, can often describe things they weren't intended to be.
And I worked at the National Whistleblower Center, and
I wrote laws, and I passed them as a legislator. So what's your point?
Tell us about your law, because you mentioned the law.
Oh, for God's sakes.
What's the law? You said your law.
In the context of the conversation we were having at that time, I was referring to New Hampshire state law versus other state laws, John.
You weren't saying something that when you were a legislator.
No, sir. I know
you passed a law about knives.
And guns.
What was the...
SB 88, which is the Stand Your Ground bill.
I keep asking you about that.
That is the Stand Your Ground bill.
Tell us what that is.
That was the bill that would prevent there being another of the bird situations where we had a man who was facing...
Who's bird? I'm just
There was a gentleman here in the state of New Hampshire who was potentially facing jail time for showing a firearm on his own property after somebody had gone through all of his no trespassing signs every 50 feet. He was very well signaged, fence and everything. Dude had cardiac surgery. Person comes on his property, not supposed to be there. They call the cops and go, oh, somebody had a gun. And they're going to get the rest of this guy and put him in jail. So
why would they do that?
Because they got him for criminal threatening. They claimed it was criminal threatening.
Who came onto his land?
It was a woman who was claiming to be looking at property that she wanted to buy in order to maintain animals that needed to be taken care of, even though she'd been previously found guilty of animal abuse. So take that with what you will.
No, I think you do have a right to stand
ended
your
up
ground.
in a very serious
but I'm
situation because
of
of New Hampshire
was.
law. The law changed that a person has the right to be able to defend themselves, and that merely Your alarm is not, and it does not make somebody a criminal. You being alarmed at the sight of a firearm does not make one a criminal. Somebody brandishing it at you, that's a different story, depending on the situation.
But
so we got to that.
Define brandishing, though, because I've heard different people with
that would be like
pointing it at you.
Oh, pointing
waving it around at you.
A battery.
So just pulling it out, in
being armed.
Well, I mean,
see, that's what I mean. I hear
there are AGs out there that have prosecuted people for the mere showing of a firearm, though it was not pointed at the individual. The claim is that they were waving it around in a menacing way,
that's why
or that when they pulled it out, it was a threatening action to pull it out, even though it wasn't pointed at the person. So that's actually been a sticking point, and I'm not sure where the laws are on that right now. It's not something I really follow. I follow healthcare a lot.
That's what I thought you guys were going to be talking about.
Well, we were until you showed up.
You mean Fred Bonig switched into this?
No, you did.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, you did.
No, you know what? It was because we were talking about the debate and Beto O'Rourke and his mandatory.
I thought he was a jerk. We already have one 14-year-old. Who needs that? My point was when you say, we're going to take away everybody's AK-47. That's really a red flag and POs people. And that type of discussion isn't needed. And you have to recognize that there is a Second Amendment, and you have a right to a firearm, and you have a right to stand your ground, to self-defense. Mm-hmm. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
So now we know what your law was, which is something I agree with.
So Mike Pelopita in the Facebook Live chat says, hi, everyone. Very passionate show today.
After all this, we had to I agree with you.
We'll get to Stefan's comments in a moment because he had a lot to say.
Stefan Philbrook?
Yep. Bill Murphy also joins us in the Facebook Live chat. Of course, we saw Bill today at the Don't Punish Pain rally up in Concord. So very nice to see Bill. He's been on the show several times. Hope to have him on again soon. He has, yes.
Where's the kid? Did he have a tremendous date and is now lost? Christian.
Oh.
Am I supposed to be his daddy or something?
Not his daddy.
John Hopwood is my daddy. John Hopwood is my daddy. John Hopwood is my daddy.
If he's about 18, I could be.
John. Jesus.
Who's that witch cackling?
Oh, my goodness. Oh.
I winked at you.
Excuse me a minute.
I winked at you.
I'm going to
it is
play
almost,
some golf
I winked at you.
It is almost Halloween.
I knew it was you.
You don't mind if I play some golf in the studio, do you, there, Matt?
Yeah, actually.
As long as you're careful about the balls that you
that would
putt.
Be, yes.
It is a white cane, so I do have an excuse of.
Oh.
I think that would be very bad. So Stefan says Second Amendment is not an individual right. Militia
It is an individual right.
That's not
That's
true.
bold. Nobody would believe that. It is an individual
Commerce
right.
matter.
It's always been.
Commerce matter in law.
Well, a lot of liberals do believe what Stefan is saying, but I would disagree. I agree with both of you on that.
But that's because the individuals
Supreme Court
made
also
up the
disagreed
militia.
as well.
The militia is every male from 18 to 60 and all women who have been military officers to the age of 50 or something. It was set
The
in
militia
1950.
back then was just a bunch of farmers with pitchforks and whatever else they could
No,
grab.
they had firearms. My great-great-great-great-great-grandfather.
I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying that
has a
they were
warrant
average people.
To get the militia together to go after the French and the Indians in King George's War in 1740.
This is interesting, too. Stefan said he's a lifelong resident of Manchester.
He is.
And Manchester is much safer than it was when he was younger. And
that's not true.
He says statistics support that.
I wonder about that, to be honest with you, because over the last 3 years or so, actually within the last year, there really has been an uptick.
Well, there is
in my neighborhood on the west side. I know there has been because unfortunately I see it in my neighborhood watch app all the time.
It started a couple of years ago. There was
car break-ins are really big.
About 2016, in 2015, but 2016 it started spiking. We were shootings. 2015, a policeman gets shot over at Rock Rimmon, near Rock Rimmon, which you'd never have seen before. His body armor saved him. And then there was...
well, it's not true to say that it's not been seen before, especially on today. I'm going to correct you.
No, in Manchester.
Because today I do believe is the day that we remember Officer Briggs.
Right. But I'm just saying, these things just didn't happen. When Officer Briggs was shot, or the guy, I can't remember his name, 1976, that was something. If somebody got shot and killed, you remembered it, there just wasn't many murders.
That's what I mean. And I don't know, Matt, if you agree, but
But it seems
you would hear about something and it would kind of catch your attention, and now it seems to be happening a lot more frequently.
I would have to see numbers. Right. To me, that's
police
all
shootings.
To me, that's all perception because we live in an age where you can get news instantly on the internet. So that's why.
No, it's true.
That's why so many people walk around believing the world is getting worse and worse all the time. When it's actually statistically getting more and more safe.
I'm going by the actual alerts that I have.
But
it seems like there are more.
But those aren't hard numbers. It seems like there are more, but I don't even perceive it that way. So it's a matter of perception.
And they use FBI paradigms to finally codify the statistics. Well, that's police calls or something.
I'd like to see actual numbers.
There's more shootings.
Yeah, I mean, you have a point there.
There's more shootings of police, that's for sure, because that's something that's always reported.
But you've seen actual numbers? You've seen actual statistics that show that?
Two shots.
No, well, actually, that's true. According to the federal crime statistics, if you go look up the federal crime statistics, officer-involved shootings are up across the board, across the country. It's not indicative strictly to our state or even our city. It's something that has upticked across the nation.
Okay.
That's right. And it must be because, like you were saying about drugs.
It's got nothing to do with the guns because that didn't change. It's got to do with the people.
That's true.
Bottom line.
Well, there's a lot
Nothing's going to get better till we change.
There's a lot of despair out there. The difference between, in the early 70s when they closed down the last shoe shop and the factories, people were kind of desperate. But then we got the defense spending of the Reagan years came up here. But, you have a whole generation of people. They used to call it with the first Generation X McJobs, where I lost my last 3 jobs were offshored. But, one of the jobs was 13 years long. Then they would get shorter. But people, you have no stability where you go into a company and make a career other than being like a professional, like a lawyer or something, and know that you're going to stick with that company. And it creates a lot of anxiety. In fact, there used to be a paradigm in political science that a society fails when the people can no longer plan on their future. And we have a generation of people that aren't so well, we call them not so well educated and that. You could go into a shoe shop, you could go into a factory, and you could work. Mm-hmm. But now it's a series of service jobs. It's not exactly like you're, winning the lottery, I guess, is your greatest hope. And that must create a tremendous amount of anxiety. And, you just flake out with dope or you just break down somehow. I just see there's a lot of despair out there.
Stefan says, I agree, good parenting does have something to do with it. However, if a good kid wants to kill a bunch of people, they will probably choose a gun over a baseball bat. Lots more effective.
Most good kids wouldn't try and kill people, but hey.
He also says militia is in there to clarify that it is not an individual right.
That's not true.
Not true.
Let me finish reading the comment. White slave owners did not want firearms to be an individual right.
Then why is that?
No, actually, white slave owners did not want black slaves or freedmen to be able to own firearms. If you go back and you look at United States history, and when it comes to gun laws, the beginning of gun laws was literally had to do with racism. It was about keeping firearms out of the black people's hands, just like marriage licenses were created to stop people from interracial marriage.
That's overstated.
We did not have to have a license. You got married, you put it in the paper, that was it. Marriage licensing was to stop interracial marriage.
I'm sure
just as much as the gun laws were to keep them out of the minority hand.
First of all, blacks weren't even people, and Dred Scott.
That's not true. That's not true.
They're all other people. They're not citizens.
They were free people. They were free men, and they wanted the law. They changed the law to keep them from to make it harder for them to be able to arm themselves.
The
just like the laws that were passed that said if you couldn't read and write, you couldn't vote.
Let's go back to the reality of the Constitution, because they have the same laws in New England. Maine, the Constitution, when it split off in 1820 from Massachusetts, one of the first things, if you look into the state constitutions, they got one of the first rights they enumerate is the right to keep and bear arms, and there's nothing about a militia. So the point is that was all through the North, and that because blacks were chattel. They were all other persons. In Taney.
At the time of the creation of the Constitution, yes, you're correct. But at the time of the start of gun laws being passed, we had segregation and racism prevalent.
That really doesn't. That's That's a mean.
There's a really great book that I can show you that was written by Aaron Zellman, who was the founder, and he passed away, of the Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. And it actually has copies of documentation to show you where some laws came from, and I would be more than happy to share that with you.
You already have.
Well, look in it and read it, because then you can see what I'm saying is true.
No, that's not. But you see, you're taking that and you're casting it everywhere. The Sullivan Act in 1912.
Copies of the bills
New York.
and the laws are right there in the book. Read it and weep. That's the law, black and white, like it or not. That's what it was.
Right, and so you know every law in the United States.
Of course
and that
not.
covered every law in the United States.
Of course not, but this is a particular area that I did spend a great deal of time in.
Not all. It doesn't have to all.
Which explains why I have all those books in my house that I've read.
And I have plenty of books, too.
Have you read Zellman's book?
You showed me it.
I showed it to you, but have you read it? Have you actually analyzed it?
Why can't we just have a conversation with what we talk about? You know, you've got to go off on all these tangents about, now it's racism. That's not true. It's not absolutely true. It might be in the South and stuff, and it might be a factor.
Why? Because the North didn't have racists? The North didn't have racist law?
That is a trope.
Are you out of your mind? You thought racism stopped at the border?
A lot. Listen, I'll match my view of history against you or anybody about what that. I know about the history of America, and we're trying to have a conversation, but you bring this.
You are the ultimate computer who knows all.
You don't want to talk about history. You bring this thing that, it's all racism. But that's not true.
I am talking about history. I asked you if you read a book that actually has the documents in it, copies of the documents in it, the laws in it, the speeches in it, about the creation of gun laws that were based out of racism. And you're like, I saw it. Yeah.
Right. So
I know the laws. I know it better than you.
See, now you're making this ugly voice to try to put me down, but you won't talk about
because you're being ridiculous.
Stuff.
I am
because
talking about this stuff.
Your contention
I'm
that it's all about racism.
Actually pointing out factual places where you can look at the data,
and you're
giving me your brainchild because that is the law.
You know, you're impossible to argue with.
Good. Stop.
So is this the book that contends that the 1968, the gun control law came out of Nazi Germany?
Yes, it does, actually. And it has a copy of the Nazi law and the American law and how it was changed and enacted. So, yes, it is actually in the book.
And what did I tell you when I read that? That was a law that was based on the German law that preceded Hitler. So it wasn't a Nazi law per se. It was a German law. It's continental law.
It was a law that was absolutely racist and specifically banned Jews.
But those were the Nuremberg laws.
They took the word Jews out.
And the law
before they passed the 1968 Gun Act
the law that they adapted already existed in Germany.
They took a Nazi racist law and put it into American law.
Can you understand what logic is? That
law, I will show it to you in black and white.
You showed me it. The law existed in Germany before Hitler.
Evidence-based information doesn't get through your brain pan.
You just want to believe what you want to believe.
No, I'm looking at evidence-based material.
So the fact
there's the law.
Why don't you stop talking for a second?
Here it is in English. Read it and weep. It's that simple.
So the law that existed before Hitler, that it adapted and added the Jews into, that doesn't count.
Look at buddy.
No, you answer that. That law existed before, didn't it?
Get the book, and I will bring it to you to show you yet again what the Nazi law was, when it was passed, and how it was duplicated in the United States.
Right, and the law didn't come out.
Do you agree or disagree that racist German law showed up in the United States and was utilized?
No, I don't. That's ridiculous.
Really?
Yes.
Really? The Gun Control Act isn't almost verbatim from that Nazi law, huh? You know about it, but it's not real.
What makes you can't you understand this? That the law that got passed, again, by the Reichstag under Hitler, under the Führerprinzip, which they added the Jews to, was already existing continental law.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about Jewish history. Educate me,
you
buddy.
won't. So that the law that existed
Educate me on my own history. Go ahead.
You're impossible. You're
ridiculous. You don't look at actual data and facts.
I did look at actual data
in
your book.
No, you didn't.
You said,
I saw
to see
the book.
anything.
That's it. It's in black and white. The actual bills are side by side in the freaking book.
Yeah, and you translated exactly from German.
Okay, Aaron Zellman was a liar then, eh? The Jews for Preservation of Firearm Ownership
just like I thought,
are using
that
bull.
bill that you're talking about.
You gonna tell me the Holocaust
before.
was a joke now, Dex, too? That's not real?
You're absurd.
Oh, there he goes. He's gonna run away now. He's gonna have his tail between his legs.
You're a bully.
No,
you are a bully.
You are.
Now we're at the level of a child.
Really?
Yes, because I'm
That's the
contending that
do.
the law, which you will never let me say, already existed, and then it was adapted. So that law that you say is racist had already existed and was in effect without putting the racial
because as you
component.
put it, the book that I read it from was illicitly translated and didn't really have the word Jews all over the law.
And what was the law that existed before Hitler?
Sure.
So you just can't accept the logic that the law that was adapted
No,
and
I'm
put
not
the law
going to
that
accept
already
your
existed.
failed logic over the actual data and materials that I've actually seen with my own eyes of history.
So that
versus your brain pan. Absolutely.
You're crazy. I got to say that you can't even realize that law was adapted by a continental law, the German, under the.
No wonder you're having babies in Canada.
Why do you do this? Why do you have to bully? I'm just
that's
talking
being
about
a bully.
Yeah, you are. You can't even accept the reality is that law already was on the books before it was
I'll
adapted.
be more than happy to bring the book into you so you can refresh your memory of history.
I don't
because us Jews didn't write the truth about it. We just stuck our name in there just to make it look like it was actually that because it wasn't, right?
Number one, I said nothing like that.
Yeah, you did.
You
got to question the translation.
Why don't you
what
listen?
else is that? What else does that mean? You question the translation. What does that mean? What does that mean, John? You doubted me on the translation of the German law and that the word Jews is actually not in the bill. So go ahead, John.
Ridiculous.
Tell me how I'm wrong.
Why don't you can come to my friggin' house? I got a whole library on the Germans and about the how the Führer principle comes out of the Koenig principle.
I'm glad that you've studied all of that insanity. Goody for you.
Oh yeah,
I'm talking about the
actually no history.
We're talking about one specific law, we're talking about the Gun Control Act of
which
1968
existed,
and where
which
it came
the law,
from.
the basis of the law already existed before Hitler, and then it was adapted after
all
the
these
Nuremberg
people that wrote
calls.
all about that and translated it are all full of bunk, and only John Hopwood knows the truth.
So the original law that was written for every German was racist. Before Hitler.
I'm lying, John. Just call me a liar. Go ahead.
That was all. That was all racist. Right?
All you doing? I know what I read. I know the facts that were put in front of me. I'm sorry that you don't agree with actual black and white evidence.
You can even look in the book and see where it is, where the law came from.
Yeah, and it had Jews all in it. Because that word was removed.
Jenny, the law existed under the Kaiser.
The law that was
in
used in the
Weimar
1968
Republic.
United States
That's
Act
that's
was taken
ridiculous.
from freaking Nazis.
No, it wasn't.
Go ahead. All right. Whatever.
It wasn't. Somebody can contend that, but it wasn't.
Yes, Aaron Zellman wrote lies.
Yeah.
Joe's for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, a national organization that spent their entire inception studying these matters and pulling these matters and studying history. They're all wrong because Hopwood's right.
And so everything in gun control is just racism because that's their bias.
A lot of gun control is born from racism and did come born out of racism. And if you don't believe that,
I know that's
can't
a trope.
fix you.
I know that's a trope. Like we have to always hear Gary, the Honorable Gary Hopper, about the Democrats being racist because of.
I didn't say anything of the
sort. Johnson.
No, he's making a comparison. He's not saying that you said that. He's saying Gary says that.
That's nice.
The law existed before. That's based on continental
He has to get
law.
the last word, or he's just an unhappy camper.
You do too.
Whatever, John.
You do too. The laws existed before the Nuremberg laws.
Listen to this.
Listen to what? Listen to the reality of what happened. The whole idea is Hitler despised the judiciary, and he was disgusted by the
Jews and
judges.
gay people and. Well,
no, we're talking about the judiciary now and the law. He didn't want to have any judges of the law or the law. It's quite a fascinating history. And in fact, there was a separate Nuremberg trials for the jurists.
I don't find anything about Nazis fascinating. Sorry.
No, they're not.
Fails to be fascinating to somebody whose family was practically wiped out. Thanks.
What? My family went through the Holocaust in Ireland.
And I'm sorry for that. And I
so
honor my family members that are listed in
that?
Yad Vashem. And I always will. And I hold that near and dear to my heart, and I do take it personally. And if you have a problem with that, I'm sorry.
But you always use these emotional arguments. Like all of a sudden you're trying to talk about Hitler and the judiciary and his hostility towards it, and that the fact that there was a Nuremberg trial. Oh, I don't want to hear about that. Well, it's fascinating, particularly since we have this jackass in the White House.
Hey, we have a call. We'll grab this quick. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
What's up, Matt? This is Tony.
Hey, Tony. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Just, I don't want to change the subject too much.
Oh, please.
But one thing I do know that every race, no matter whether black, white, or whatever, Spanish, whatever, anybody that's had their guns taken away from them was pretty much genocided. That's one of the things I do know.
Agreed.
And you can look in the history of that, of any culture or anything that had their weapons taken away, the next step was genocide. Check it out.
Agreed.
All right, Tony. That's a great point. Thank you for the call.
Yeah, so that's a good point, so we can keep our weapons to defend ourselves. Doesn't matter what color you are, as long as we can defend ourselves. That's all I care about.
Agreed.
All right, Tony. Well, thank you for the call.
You got it, buddy. Take care. Bye.
All right, my friend. Bye-bye. All right.
So when they took all the weapons away from Englishmen, did they kill them?
I guess not.
Look at you. You make this face. Answer the question. English, they have the strictest gun laws. They didn't kill all the English, did they?
Well, that's a good point too.
France is
Democratic
unique.
version of a Trump.
How can you say that? Why don't you just answer a question? You're so self-satisfied.
No, you just say you have to be right on everything.
No, but
caller calls in, points out something that
so the English
is
took
historically
away
pretty
guns.
accurate if you look through the
because
centuries.
the English
I'm
took
gonna
away
find the one group of people that didn't get massacred and name them. That's
How about France? What about Netherlands?
I don't know. I haven't
what about
looked at their
Sweden?
histories. I'm worried about my own.
Sweden took away the guns and no, you're interested in Germany. You bring that up.
I did not.
Because you can take away people's guns and they're not going to massacre everybody.
I am not in favor of disarming this populace, but, knock yourself out there, buddy.
See, I can say I'm for guns and everything, and then you take it to an absurdum. It's ridiculous. You're too emotionally involved in this issue.
Yes, of course. Call me an emotional woman because that is the
standard
for every man in the world to use.
And
you
am I
are
wrong?
such a walking contradiction. It's ridiculous.
You
claim to be one thing and then you actually treat people differently. You claim to be all-inclusive, but you're pulling out, oh, you're an emotional
Men
person.
are never emotional.
Men are never emotional.
Men are never emotional.
Really?
Right?
You're not emotional there, John. You're not hot under the collar over there, John. Watching your mannerisms, the way you're shoving things around.
You're very unpleasant today to talk to because you're constantly turning stuff around. Because now I say, of course, men are emotional. It's just not women. But see, I say, you're an emotional. So now it's got to become a woman. It's always got to be something about oppression.
Stop trying to claim the fact that my ideas are based out of my emotion versus the things that I know and understand. No, the knowledge and the study and the things that I learned have nothing to do with my opinion. It's all emotion-based because I'm a woman.
Yeah, that's what I said. Men
that's
are
what
never
you're insinuating.
That's not what
you're
I'm
insinuating
it. No, it's not. Hey,
You're
we're already
ridiculous.
over 6:03.
Well, we're actually off the air on FM, but I let
so we can keep going at it.
But I let the Facebook Live video go, and
please.
it's still recording because I didn't want to.
You're evil.
What?
After the things that when we're off air, boy.
Oh, now we can F-bomb?
No, because then
we're on Comcast.
Yeah.
No, the point is, I support almost everything you say, but you're talking about stuff, and I'm just talking about when you're
I'm talking
saying
about actual facts, John.
It's not.
You're calling emotion facts.
The fact is that the Nazi law is based on extant German law that already existed.
The fact is the Nazi law that forbade the ownership of guns by Jews is the duplicitous.
The German law
was
already
duplicated
existed
in United
before
States
Hitler.
law in 1968 Gun Control Act.
It is a German law that was a common continental law.
So the books that I've read and everything was, as you
because
said,
they're not biased.
Not translated correctly.
Because the people are biased, right?
People are biased, so they intentionally mistranslate it. You're telling me that everything that I was looking at by lawyers and other people as a bunch of blunk.
Oh, and
bunch of bull.
Lawyers start biased, right? I've been in I've been courtrooms and stuff.
Why
They're
don't
paid
you
to be biased.
get the copies of the things I'm talking
You
about
already-
and
I already
prove
saw
it to me
it.
that it's wrong, since my book is a lying book.
I can't.
Since
I
Aaron
can't.
Zellman and the Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership are a bunch of blocky,
I
and they
can't.
printed this stuff for no good reason but to screw you over.
I can't
John
prove
C.
that
Hopwood.
because you won't admit that
I'm not going to admit that
the
I'm
law
wrong.
already existed. So to say that the law that it already existed,
The
which
Nazis
is a common law.
wrote
No, they
the
did.
law that was duplicated in 1968 Gun Control Act in the United States of
That
America was
is
a
not
Nazi
true.
law.
No, it's not
and I
true.
will show it to you in black and white again if you promise to actually
already
read
looked
it
at the
this
book and I
time.
already- you already-
You looked
the
at it,
page
but you didn't
came.
read it. You didn't read it. You're looking
The
at
law
it. You
already
didn't read
existed.
it. Open your eyes and read the
You
stupid
want to,
thing.
Jenny, you want to believe what you want to believe and there's absolutely no
I have the
ability
evidence
to
and the
argue.
facts in my
Right,
home.
so that the fact that the law
right
had
there that
already
I
been
can
written
look up and show it.
and then it was added to, that means nothing.
Oh, now you're saying it was added to. Who added
Which
to it, John?
I've been saying
Who
for about
changed
40
the law,
minutes.
John? Who changed the law, John?
You're
What
absurd.
law was used to duplicate
You're
it in
absolutely
1968
absurd.
by the United States government? Nazi.
No, that's
Nazi law
false. That's
was
absolute-
used in
that's false.
1968.
That's false,
Nazis
and I reject
are the
it.
ones that
No,
put
it
the
wasn't.
language in there for Jews, and that is the law
And
that was duplicated in
Oh, so
1968.
In the 1968 Act, Jews can't own firearms.
They took that word out, as
Oh, they
I've said
did.
it before.
So the law,
And I'll say it
You
again.
mean they went back to the law before
the hearing
the
impaired.
Nazis, before the Nazis that already existed on the books.
Listen, buddy, what did you just say? The Nazis changed the law. Did you or did you not say that? Yes or no?
They changed the law to add the Nuremberg to add Jews, but that doesn't mean that the law
the
that's
law that was
basically there,
duplicated in 1968 was whose law?
the Imperial German law.
The Nazi
and it wasn't even
German
that.
law.
You don't understand law and how
I
there's-
don't understand law. I wrote law, helped pass law,
law.
but I don't understand
So
law.
you never saw
Really?
a model law.
Excuse me?
You never saw a model law.
Of course I saw model
Have you
law.
read
I
Supreme-
wrote model
have you read
legislation,
Supreme
mister.
Court? What organization
Yeah, I
did
did.
you belong to?
I started the knife freedom movement across this country.
So you
Look
know
it
what
up.
a model law is.
That's also
now.
lookable on your Google search that you won't use.
My phone's dead.
Well, that's not my problem that you can't look it up, but look those things up. Find the facts
I know
for
what a
yourself,
model law
because they're
is.
there.
You just want to believe what you want to believe.
Whatever.
I mean, look, you're talking about continental law. Those laws,
No,
the
I'm
German
talking
laws.
about the Nazi
What is continental law? What is
that
continental
was
law?
duplicated in United States law in
You're just
1968.
going to
and they
go
took out the word Jew.
on forever. But that law was based on the law that already existed in Germany.
Okay, wait. So, in your mind's eye, if something was written by, let's say, France in Louisiana, and then Louisiana took that law and kept it after the Louisiana Purchase, but they changed it up a little bit and they made it, Americans, it's still a French law.
Not a French law.
Well, yes, it is under your standards.
No, that's
under my standard.
that's under your
the
standard.
last
Your
hand-
standard is Nazi.
The last hand that made the law was the law of the land.
so the
is the one that's responsible
so the
for
Germans
it.
didn't get rid of the Nazi law, right? They didn't refine it. Did you ever look at the law after 1945 in Germany?
Did the United States government use
Did
that
you?
law as a
No, they
model
didn't. No, they
to
didn't.
put into the 1960s? Yes, they did. Read it.
No, they didn't.
Some of the sentences were almost verbatim. Have you read them?
I read you gave me the book, and what I saw was that the law existed before the Nazis.
Oh my God, that's
And
all
they
you
just
saw.
adapted
You didn't
it.
read anything. You just looked at pictures.
Right, and I know, yeah, and I know nothing
I need to
about.
get you a pop-up book so you can get it
Why are you so nasty?
because you make it so easy.
No, you make it so easy because you won't reason to anything. You
No,
can't
you
accept
won't
the
reason to anything. You won't actually open your eyeballs and read
I
it.
was
You're
there
making
and
an
read the
opinion
book.
on looking at that picture.
I read the book. It was right
You
there.
did not read the book.
Yes, I
You
did.
looked at the
You showed me
pictures
this-
and
I'm
you
not
handed
gonna-
it
I don't
back
have
to me.
to read
You
the whole
didn't read
friggin'
the whole
book.
friggin' book. You do have to read it if you're going to actually
Oh,
sit
so
there.
I got
if
to-
you're going to dissect law, you need to read it.
I don't have to read. I read the law, Jenny. I don't have to read.
Oh, yes, that's right. My
somebody's
book has
spin on
a false translation. And the word
I don't
Jews
know. I
wasn't
didn't read the
really
German.
in there. It's a figment of my imagination and
You
millions of other
honestly
people's.
think that
Millions of other people's
You
are
think that
full
the
of it.
Judiciary Committee of the United
I
States
think of what?
government, the Judiciary Committee of the United States Congress in the Senate and the House is going to take a Nazi law
Yeah, I do.
Everybody knows.
The same place, the same place that
law.
time and again, United States history did not legislators and senators actually get on the floor of the United States Congress and demand that we make it illegal constitutionally for interracial marriage based on the one-drop rule. That occurred not once, not twice, not
was
3
outlawed
times,
in
but multiple times
1967.
in the United States history
That
on
was
our floor.
outlawed in
so
1967.
if you tell me that, if you ask me, do I believe that a racist law was heard in Congress? Absolutely, I do.
The great Democratic majority that came in with LBJ is going to take an anti-Semitic law.
Time again.
Crazy.
Time and time again.
What
Congress
happened in 1960?
has had racist things going on up there. Our society used to believe that slavery was perfectly okay to own a human being. That was in our legislature. That was in our walls.
That's in the Constitution.
Separate but equal. Where did that occur? Where did that occur? In our legislative walls.
This has nothing to do with this has nothing to do with the 1968
The legislators that created that act used that law.
No, they
It's
didn't.
practically verbatim. You can look it up. I'm not going to argue with you anymore because my throat's getting sore. I'm telling you, look it up, read it.
I already told you the law already existed before the Nazis.
Read it.
And I'm sure it existed in the Federal Republic of Germany. And I'm sure that they didn't need a German
millions of people
law.
that have written about this topic
Millions.
to death.
Millions.
Are absolutely bull.
Millions of people.
Yeah.
And you can go back to contemporary.
This is a huge friggin' issue among gun owners.
You can go into the congressional record
and it is something that does get talked about quite frequently.
Why would they need that? It doesn't make any sense.
It was a simple, easy model legislation to use. That's what they used.
Right. And with some
when have you ever known our government not to take the quickest, easiest, simplest way out?
So you did just say it was a model legislation.
They used it as model legislation. They took out the Jew
part.
They
did not use a German
Yeah, they
law.
did.
Just because some book that you
put them side by side, read it, and if they're not, and if you can't see it,
I did. I looked at the thing.
No, you didn't.
The law already existed before. How come you cannot understand that?
What did you say? The law was
stuff.
altered. Did you or did you not state that the law that was on the land, that was off the books, was changed by the Nazis and introduced the word Jews?
Why don't you just be quiet for a second?
Shut up.
The fact is, like I was trying to tell you, I've got plenty of books about it, that Hitler despised the German judiciary. He did
What does that have to do with gun law?
It's plenty to do with it because they didn't
that was enacted
like
in Germany and copied in the United States. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about Hitler's feelings about the judiciary. We're talking about whether or not this law was duplicated into United States law, and it was.
A Nazi law was not duplicated.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
You can believe whatever you want, but, you know.
Look it up. I don't have to believe whatever I want. I can believe what's black and white. I believe what I could see,
and I know
hear,
exactly
and
what
read
I thought,
in black and white,
because I
not
know
your
that
opinion.
the Germans kept the law under the Imperial Germans and under the Weimar Republic, and they just adapted it. That was one of the great things, and it came out in the Nuremberg trials of the judges. They just, instead of the Koenig principle, they go with the Führer principle. But Hitler couldn't stand lawyers because he wanted stuff done, and then they would always be lawyers and stuff. And they couldn't adapt themselves enough for them. The law that you're talking about had already existed in Germany, and it probably existed afterwards, too. The Nuremberg laws are shameful.
Yes, because the Nazis didn't do all kinds of laws in order to disarm the populace. So nobody could have possibly used anything that they did to duplicate in their own areas because they didn't exist, right?
The 1968 Act hardly disarmed the populace of the United States. Come on. It banned, like, mail-order weapons, like the ones used by... the
1968 Gun Control Act did a lot more than that.
Oh, yeah. We didn't have any weapons after 68. They suddenly came, you know? They banned importation of certain weapons, like... The PP was a PPK, so they had to create the PPS because it had to have a certain length and that for concealment. Mail order weapons and certain guns, but it wasn't that comprehensive. But it was more than existed before.
Well, I suppose we should start to wrap up.
I'll bring in the entire library about the German judiciary.
In 1933, Adolf Hitler seized power. And it was during that time that constitutional rights were suspended. Mass searches took place
if you have
to seize
constitutional
guns,
rights, you don't even have laws,
to silence dissidences, And I believe I can't even find the exact
but
year.
That was everybody.
And in 1938, Hitler signed a new gun control act. And this is the very paper that I'm talking about.
This was all, they did that to everybody.
Which was then, no, it specifically had to do with Jews.
Well, that was the year of the...
in 1938, Hitler signed the gun control...
Kristallnacht.
The 1938 Gun Control Act.
And what are you reading, Wikipedia?
No.
Well, go to Wikipedia.
Actually, Wikipedia is not a good resource. You know, when I was in college, that was the one place you could not cite.
I think the two of you would agree on
this. Everybody can change it.
No, you go to that, but the thing about Wikipedia is you actually go to the sources they cite. I'm not going to go to a biased site. It just gives you a thing.
No, I'm reading a National Review history article about the history.
National Review, which is right wing.
That's true. They are a conservative publication.
Well, they used to be considered a reactionary, but now they've moved to the middle.
Which is pretty much the same things that were in that book that we were talking about.
I'm not going to cite the National Review. That's a biased source. I hope they haven't told my card.
So it's not true that Hitler passed the Gun Control Act in 1938.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly that's what I'm saying, right?
That's what I said to you from the article.
I'm saying that
so
the 1968 Act isn't based on any Nazi
Yes, it is. The
and any law that would be German had been a continental model law. And guess what, Jenny? They don't have guns in England because London used to be super violent in the 19th century.
Yeah,
and they didn't. I don't know of any Holocausts that happened. You know, the English didn't kill each other; they just stuck you in a factory and worked you till you died at 58, a toothless old fart or something. Jeez,
we actually have a call. Let's grab this because people are still watching on Facebook.
The English still don't have teeth.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Hi, welcome to the Matt Connarton Unleashed bonus show. Who's this?
I love it.
Bonus is my car.
I love this. I posted all the sources that that Jenny was citing.
Yes.
But I also posted all the sources that said that what they were doing in that report, which I posted the report and the cover of it,
talk to you guys.
and the information from Fordham University about it. That she's not necessarily correct on what she's saying because they misrepresented a lot of things in that report.
You're talking Aaron Zellman's book?
Yeah.
So you said...
I mean, I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying what like you said, Wikipedia, all these places that Snoop, that kind of fact checked it, said they weren't, they were pretty much not right.
Snoops and Wikipedia.
I just thought I'm not making an opinion. I'm just telling you it's in the feed there.
Thank you. I thank you for that.
All right.
I will say for the record, though, that Wikipedia
thanks,
can be
Fred.
changed by anybody, so I don't trust it. And Snoops is run by, we all know. Snopes, whatever, Snoops.
Snoops is a site where you can spy on people. I'm kidding. That's not true.
Well, there are a couple of...
That'd be fun. Well, oh, my goodness. Wow. So, John Hopwood had to leave suddenly, and he said something about, I hope they haven't towed my car.
Uh-oh.
So I guess I
guess we could give her a ride home if they did, right?
Well, of course, yes. So on that note, I do have a song queued up to finish up. So on that note, we will wrap up. But before we go, I just want to say hi to Michael Alber in the Facebook live chat, as well as Tom Blanchard. Just a few folks who joined us late. We're not going to get to all of your comments, but I appreciate that. Oh, and Peter White, of course, from the morning show with Peter White.
Peter.
Peter joins us in the Facebook
Peter's
live chat.
I'm losing my brain here.
Of course, you can hear the morning show weekdays from 7 to 9 a.m. live here on WMNH 95.3 and a replay from 2 to 4 p.m. immediately preceding this program. And I'll get to see Peter tomorrow night at the end of this program. I'll have to get the show uploaded and get out of here quick and head over for the Granite Mike Awards put on by the New Hampshire Association of Broadcasters, as they do every year. Always a great time, or as I like to call them, the Channel 9 Rock 101 Awards. But but it'll be great to hang out with Peter and Daryl and Rob Azevedo, and really looking forward to that. And I do enjoy the meal, of course, because it is my stomach's world, and you all just live in it. So the overrun, as we say for the show, will be included in the podcast that goes up. So if you missed any part of today's show, including the part that did not go out on WMNH Live, but did go out, of course, on the Facebook feed, that will also be included at WMNHradio.org. So you'll be able to hear everything then. And Fred did post a bunch of those links, by the way, in the Facebook live chat. So thank you. And Jenny, thank you.
I need to go across the street to the Hop Knot now and get something.
Oh.
After all of that.
Gonna head back over there. Oh, yes. And thank you again, by the way, to the Hop Knot. Jenny brought me this this wonderful mug. So I'm holding that up for folks on the Facebook Live to see. So it's nice. So I can put my water in the mug.
Pretzel with a beer cheese dip. It was really good.
That does sound good.
Now I'm hungry again.
Oh, my goodness.
Time to go.
Well, all right. All right. So that's it for us for now. I got a little song here to play us out. I'm going to kill the Facebook Live feed in a second, but it'll be in the podcast at WMNHradio.org. And talk to y'all a little bit later. Bye, everybody. From the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in downtown Manchester, New Hampshire, you are tuned in to the best of Matt Connarton Unleashed. Although we did receive the most creative way that anyone has used to communicate with the show during the show came from our new friend in Idaho, Brian Mackey, who is not Chris James, because I know Chris from Vancouver, of course, a host of Not Even a Show, will occasionally use Idaho. But apparently Brian Mackey actually is from Idaho. And he sent us a video during the show that I then played the audio of the video on the show during the show. Because he had, what he did is he recorded a video, because he's got his own whole podcasting setup that I was able to see in the video. And so he recorded the video and then said in the Facebook live chat, Matt, check your email. So I checked my email and there was the video. So I played it. So that was cool. That was a little different. He sounded phenomenal. It looks like he's got a very pro setup going on there. So hello to Brian, if you're listening. Hello to, in the Facebook live chat, I see Michael Martineau joins us. Hello. As well as Mary LeMay. Let's see. Wayne Noel joins us. Wayne says, good afternoon, Matt. What kind of trouble are you planning to get into today? Well, the thing is, Wayne, I don't plan to get into trouble. It just happens. Trouble happens during the show. It's quite remarkable. Eric Gagnon, also known as Easy G, who says, hi, Matt, my fave afternoon host ever. Wow, that is remarkable. That deserves... That is, of course, a special Easy G Eric Gagnon air horn that is reserved only for him. I only use the air horn when he says something complimentary to me, as you might know. Well, how long has that been there? Has that been there for a while and I just didn't notice? I'm looking at the screen on the Facebook live feed, and I see the face of John Clayton directly above Manchester. Let's see. Wayne Noel says, I guess it follows you around. Yes. The Trouble. The Trouble with Tribbles, my favorite Star Trek episode. Apropos of nothing. That's just when I hear the word trouble, that's what I think of. The Trouble with Tribbles. Yes. So, by the way, thank you, EZG. If I'm his favorite afternoon host, that means that EZG prefers me over Howie Carr, who is, of course, my competitor in this market locally in Manchester, of course. Howie Carr, who is syndicated regionally. But of course, we have this wonderful, not only this following in the Queen City of Manchester, but also online. People from all over the country, all over the world. It's quite remarkable. So take that, Howie Carr. I assume if I'm the number one show in this day part, as we say in radio, in the heart of EZG Eric Gagnon, I can only assume that we're killing it here in the actual ratings, because EZG is a taste maker, if you will. He should get an Instagram account. I know you don't have one, EZG. You said on the other show that you're not on Instagram, but you should get on there and look into becoming an influencer, as they're called, where you can have these corporations pay you all kinds of money to make videos where you're using their products and so forth. I'm telling you, you could make a lot of money. That could be because EZG, of course, is currently unemployed, from what I understand. So there you go. All right. Boy, where to begin? We have so much. We will get to the debate and so forth. But I did see something quite stunning on my favorite website, and hopefully yours, rightwingwatch.org. So we're going to start with something truly exciting. Mark Taylor, whom we have featured many times on the show, he calls himself the firefighter prophet. I still don't know what that's about. I mean, prophet as in prophecy, of course, because he can see the future, apparently, and God speaks to him and so forth, gives him messages. And he is what they call on Right Wing Watch a radical right-wing conspiracy theorist. But Mark Taylor said today, apparently, he is making the claim that his critics of Mark Taylor, the firefighter prophet, are driven by demonic forces. That is incredible. Now, this has terrible implications, my friends, because I myself have been critical of Mark Taylor. And if Mark Taylor's theory is correct, then that would mean that I, yours truly, Matt Connarton, host of Matt Connarton Unleashed, EZG's favorite afternoon show, that I myself am actually driven by demonic forces. I can't believe this. This is terrifying to me. So I'm going to play this audio of Mark Taylor. He was on this other guy's show, Christopher McDonald. He does a show online called The McFiles. Get it? Because his last name is McDonald. And to use the word files in the name of your show is super original and clever. No one's ever done that. So anyway, so Mark Taylor is explaining this to Christopher McDonald, that those who criticize him are driven by dark forces. So let's listen to this. Now, again, this has incredible implications, my friends, because it has honestly never occurred to me that I myself, the good God-fearing man that I am, that I myself might in fact be driven by demonic forces. This is quite terrifying. So we'll listen to, but before we listen to that, let's take this call. Perhaps someone has some thoughts on this and some reassurance. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hey, Matt, is your refrigerator running? Well, you better slice it in half with a sword. Lock gang's back.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think we've just been pranked, my friends. Chris James, host of Not Even a Show, and of course the Nothing More Show, which you can get on Patreon if you're a patron of Chris. He has these competitors, so these guys from these rival organizations. You've got Please and Prank You. You've got what's another one? Dr. Frankenstein or something. There's these other these organizations that are rivaling what Chris says. Chris himself doesn't really prank us much anymore because we're friends now. In fact, he considers me a good host on his show, not even a show. He rates the hosts. You know, there's a red host is a bad host, an orange host is, I think it's orange, is a not great host, and a green host is a good host. So he considers me a good host, which is wonderful. I appreciate that. But it's not as much fun to prank us anymore on this show because now that we are friends, you know, he just tries to, you know, he'll still call and do things that are kind of silly and whatnot, but he doesn't really prank us like he used to. But you know, there's these rival organizations that you know, the Prankaholics, that's another one, I think. I don't know if Dr. Frankenstein is actually one. I kind of made that up on my own, but it's a great name, you got to admit. If someone isn't using that already, they should. Maybe I'll start doing prank calls and I'll call myself Dr. Frankenstein. I'm sure it's already taken. But anyway, so I believe that's what that was. By the way, somebody called the show yesterday claiming to be Chris James. I don't think that this was actually him, but
John Hopwood is my daddy. John Hopwood is my daddy. John Hopwood is my daddy. John. Oh, Jesus.
But I was able to figure out that wasn't Chris James. That clearly was not Chris James. That was someone masquerading as Chris James trying to fool us because John Hopwood could not be his daddy because John Hopwood has no children. So, you're not going to fool me. Anyway, all right. So let's listen to this. So this is Mark Taylor. We're going to listen to him explain. Oh, Wayne in the Facebook live chat says, hi, Jenny. Jenny isn't actually here, at least not yet. That was, but you did hear her voice laughing. Oh, no, Jenny is here. I'm sorry. Jenny just popped into the Facebook live chat. Hello, Jenny. And Rhonda Favero also joins us. And that's why Wayne was saying, hi, Jenny. I got confused. Wayne, I thought you were saying hi, Jenny, because you heard Jenny's laughing. But in fact, Jenny is in the Facebook live chat. So there we go. I need to pay better attention to the Facebook live chat, my friends. There could be all kinds of people in here, and I don't even realize it. Now I'm scrolling through to make sure. I don't want to miss anybody. I mean, I almost missed that Easy G was in there, and he's a big celebrity. All right. So we're going to listen to this audio. This is Mark Taylor. He's going to explain how those who oppose him, those who criticize him, are driven by demonic forces. And again, I have a stake in this, my friends, because I hate to think that am I really critical of him, though? Do I really oppose him, this Mark Taylor? Or am I more just mocking him out of fun and friendship? I might actually really like the guy, and I'm just kind of joshing him a little. You know, kind of like we do to Easy G when he's on the show. You know, we give him a little bit of a razzing, but it's not serious. It's all in fun. Or maybe I am, in fact, possessed by demons. I don't know. Let's hear what Mark Taylor has to say. And as always, let's listen to this, not only with open minds, but with open hearts as well. And
I have been attacked many times by other people in the past. And here's the funny thing about this, is that the ones that attack me, Chris, it's like they're obsessed with it.
Oh,
literally. And you know who some others I've talked to. We've talked personally about some of this stuff. And I even have someone that I cut all ties to back in 2018 in February because they were going public with stuff and they wouldn't stop attacking me.
That's right.
Someone very close to me. And so now we're coming back around and doing it again in a different way, which I'm not going to go into.
Oh.
But I've had guys in the beginning, and I've had people in the middle of this whole thing that I've done, and I've got people now attacking me, but they're obsessed. Now you have to ask yourself, what is the spirit behind this obsession to attack a prophetic voice? It's Jezebel. Every bit of it is Jezebel.
Jezebel, and we've talked about that before, and that is why 2019 is the year of the eunuchs, because the eunuchs are supposed to rise up and confront and destroy Jezebel. It all makes sense. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hi, this is Claire in Pasadena.
Claire in Pasadena, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, Matt, I'm curious. Do you have a Prince Albert on a sword? Lock gang?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, we have been pranked by the Lock Gang, my friends. Yes. The Lock Gang, another one of these organizations. Now, they don't just prank Jim Lockwood. And by the way, prior to not even a show, prior to getting to know Chris and watching, the first time I realized that that's where clips of my show were being featured, I did like a little kid. I sat and I watched all the episodes of Not Even a Show that have clips of Matt Connarton Unleashed. And then I went back and watched all the rest of them. I didn't even know who Jim Lockwood was. He's this really pretty douchey conservative talk show host online. Maybe he's carried on some AM stations somewhere. I don't know, but he's nuts. There was one clip where Chris James called him, and Jim Lockwood, he's sitting there waving a gun around in the air. It was very threatening. I was concerned for Chris's safety. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Oh, hi, Matt. A concerned person.
Yes.
Yes. Are the walls home?
Are the walls home? There are walls here in the studio.
Are the walls there?
Yes.
Oh, you're supposed to say no.
Oh, but there are walls here. Oh, man.
Oh, okay.
Can we start over? Because now I'm curious.
No.
We can start over. We'll have a mulligan? I guess not. All right. That sounded like the Honorable Heidi Hamer. Was she trying to get in on the pranking? Maybe she's Dr. Frankenstein, huh? Oh boy, I'll tell you what. All right. No, I am genuinely curious now. So I was supposed to say no, or the wall's home. But how would I know to say no? Like what? That's a strange one, or the wall's home. I don't know what to do with that. Anyway, I did not know what to do with that. Stephen Philbrook says, did you say Lock Gang like Love of Crips, LOC? No, Stephen. I should clarify that because, we don't want to get into some sort of gang war here. My goodness, I already had my problems with MC Hammer in the past. You all remember that. That was terrifying. What a saga that was. No. Lock Gang as in Jim Lockwood. If you look up Jim Lockwood online, he's he's this right-wing radio host. And like I said, one of the times that Chris James called his show, Lockwood is sitting there speaking aggressively to Chris while waving a gun around in the air on his Facebook live feed or YouTube or wherever. It was quite frightening. I thought I remember seeing that and thinking, this Jim Lockwood is out of control. Someone needs to arrest him. He's probably a menace to all of society. But oddly enough, so one of the other guys, this other right-wing guy that Chris James likes to harass quite a bit, J.J. McCartney, for whatever reason, J.J. apparently does not like Jim Lockwood, even though they're of the same ilk. It's all very strange. J.J. McCartney, I have a theory about him, because I watched the clips where Chris calls him and others call him. I really do believe, I think I even said this to Chris once. I forget if it was on this show when Chris called in, or it might have been, I was a guest once on, Chris has a show on Twitch called No Prank Radio. And I had the honor of being a guest on there. I called in. It was over the phone. I didn't fly up to Vancouver. That's a bit far. But anyway, my theory about J.J. McCartney is there's a part of him that actually does want to just relax and laugh at the bit, but he's just too stubborn to do it. I really sense that, but I could be wrong. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hey, Matt, have you seen Mike's sword?
Have I seen your sword?
Yeah, it's really small, so you might not have seen it. But if you see Mike's sword, can you grab it? Oh, Jesus Christ. My sword. Oh, God, these suck.
Oh, boy.
Lock Gang, I guess.
Lock Gang. I'm with you. All right. Should that? Well, maybe we'll do half an air horn for that one. Oh my goodness! And as you can hear when I laugh, I'm still coughing a little bit. I'm still getting over this bronchitis. I think I've had bronchitis for the past. I think it's been about 3 years now of bronchitis. It's quite remarkable. I almost died last night. Stefan says, just looking out for your safety. Thank you, Stefan. You know, I don't worry about it too much, though. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show lately, but I grew up in Seatown. And no, I'm not talking about Concord, New Hampshire. I'm talking about, Compton, CA. And, back then, I mean, that was back in my gangbanging days. I was actually a member of both the Bloods and the Crips simultaneously. But no one dared step to me about it because I was so thug. It was a confusing time, but boy, you wouldn't mess with me back then. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Yeah, hi. So earlier you received a phone call from one of our associates about whether or not the walls were home, and the punchline did not land because you answered yes.
I know.
We did let them go because of the botched punchline, but I am here to finish it.
Good.
Take the torch. So we can, kind of rerun this. So
let's do that.
Yeah. So are the walls home?
No.
Lock gang.
Oh. Okay. But that's it? What happened? Are you still there? Because aren't you supposed to give the punchline and then say lock gang? I'm really confused. This whole wall thing has me baffled. I don't hear anybody hang up. I think he's still there. Are you still there? Are you waiting for an air horn? I can give you a little bit of one. You got to finish the joke, though. I still don't know what the punchline is. I'm going to have to Google it now. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and hang up. Oh, boy. You know what happened? He's probably sitting there on the phone and he's processing what I was just saying about the Bloods and the Crips and how I was actually a member of both gangs. I was covered in tattoos. I had to have them removed. Boy, that was even, you have no idea the pain I went through. Let's see. Dean Stepler, who is, that's a new name in the Facebook live chat. Hello, Dean. Dean says, JJ snaps. Yes. JJ gets, he gets quite upset. I still really do believe, though, there's a part of JJ, I can really sense it. There's a part, I think JJ McCartney is genuinely conflicted. I think there is a part of him that wants to let go and laugh. And I'll tell you why I think that. Part of it is I just kind of sense it. But also, too, he knows, sometimes he knows when it's Chris calling, because sometimes Chris will just call in his regular voice and just be like, hi, JJ. And JJ doesn't just immediately hang up on him. So it's like, I think there's a part of JJ with each call from Chris where he's genuinely curious to see where it's going, even though he knows it's probably going to end with a shirt bit, because the shirt bit is back. The hat bit is done, but the shirt bit is, I even got shirted one day. I did. It was very confusing for me. Somebody called and called this show and said, nice shirt. And I was like, it took me a second to even process what had just happened, because I was like, wait, what? I just got shirted, but I'm not JJ. I felt as though I had somehow fallen into an alternate universe for a second where I was JJ McCartney, or I was me, but I was the one who gets shirted. It was just baffling. I didn't know how to even process what was going on. I was so confused. Let's see. Stefan says, Lock Gang better chill before the Crips take notice. I love your old gang stories. I love that you were purple. Well, it's not that, it's not so much that I was purple. I wouldn't put it quite that way, Stefan. It's just that I was able to wear both colors, I wore both the red and the blue. But I wouldn't say that I was purple. I think some of my former associates might, they wouldn't like that so much, if you know what I'm saying. Seven says, these Lock Gang peeps are rookies. Well, I mean, they weren't able to complete the wall thing. I'm going to have to Google that. I want to know what the correct, because, I like to be very precise about these things. I think it's important as a broadcast journalist. I want to know what the correct ending to that joke is. Stefan says, they straight up suck at this. Oh, no. Oh, my goodness, Stefan. Yikes. Dean Stepler says he loves Chris. Who, Stefan? I love Chris. I don't know if Stefan does. Dean says, just kidding. JJ is bipolar with Chris. Oh, JJ loves Chris. Yes. Yeah, JJ is bipolar with Chris. Yeah, you're right, because there are times when JJ seems almost like he wants to be friendly. But then there's that one time, this was in a recent episode, where not only did JJ get mad and say insulting things, and of course he did the same thing they all do. Oh, you're calling from your basement, your mom's basement, huh? They all say that. It's so lame. It's like a standard thing that they all feel like they have to say. But JJ actually threatened Chris. He didn't threaten him violently, but he threatened he said something about he's going to track him down and make his life a living hell and this and that. And something about, you are now my enemy, Chris, or something like that. And I'm going to make you pay. It was very threatening. He never actually quite threatened violence, but it was strongly implied. That was a particularly, but now, to be fair, who knows? Maybe JJ was just having a really terrible day. I don't know. And maybe that just pushed him over the edge. But anyway. Well, let's hear the rest of this. Again, this is Mark Taylor explaining how those who criticize and mock, such as yours truly, are being driven by demonic forces. Again, this is of great import to me personally.
Jezebel was obsessed with taking down Elijah.
That's right. Oh, that's right. The Jezebel thing. We have to come back to that. Remember, we talked before. That's why I always say at the top of the show, it's the year 2019. It's the year of our Lord and the year of our eunuchs. Because as we learned previously, I don't remember if it was from Mark Taylor or somebody like Mark Taylor, but this is the year that the eunuchs are supposed to rise up and destroy Jezebel. I'm not sure why the eunuchs have to do it. Seems like they've probably got their own stuff to work out, right? I mean, they're eunuchs, but they are in fact supposed to rise up and destroy Jezebel. And it's Jezebel that apparently is making all the trouble for people like Mark Taylor, for President Trump, for everybody else. So, all the good God-fearing Americans. So anyway, so there you go. I'll back this up just a tiny bit because I did interrupt the part about Jezebel, which is very important.
Session to attack a prophetic voice. It's Jezebel.
Jezebel.
Every bit of it is Jezebel. Jezebel was obsessed with taking down Elijah.
That's right.
Period. And it's to shut the true voice the true prophetic voice up. And we warned on this show about a month ago that Jezebel was aligning herself with Leviathan because if she...
Jezebel is aligning herself with Leviathan? Oh, my goodness. Now, this is shocking. We're going to have to... I'm Facebook friends with Leviathan. He is, of course, he's a drummer. He's, I believe he's a drummer in Donaher, if I'm not mistaken. And he's done a lot of great things in the local music scene. Jezebel, now Leviathan is an atheist, from what I understand, based on his Facebook posts. He's very liberal, and he says things like, there is no God. So I cannot believe Jezebel, apparently involved with a local musician right here in Manchester, Leviathan. This is incredible.
You can't control and manipulate the voice. She will try to discredit, twist it, and turn it, and she's using Leviathan to do that.
Wow.
People that do this, guys, it's a red flag. People who are obsessed with attacking a certain individual or multiple people like this, it's Jezebel that's behind it.
Now, by the way, just to be clear, I'm not obsessed. I am not obsessed with attacking Mark Taylor. I just really enjoy making fun of him. It's not an obsession, but it is something I take great joy in.
Every single time. Jezebel's always behind a religious and legalistic spirit. Period. So be careful who you follow because, look, I'm going to say this, and this may be very controversial.
Oh,
Chris,
say something controversial.
It needs to be said.
Oh, okay.
These people that do this are driven by forces that are greater than themselves. They're driven by demonic forces.
Oh.
And here, I'm going to say this twice. I want people to understand this.
He's gonna say this twice. So pay close attention if you didn't hear it the first time. And by the way, A little air horn there for him.
You cannot reason with demons. You cannot reason with demons.
Right. There you go. You cannot reason with demons. And he did, in fact, say it twice. You cannot reason with demons. Okay. So I hope everyone's clear on that. And I think he's probably right about that. I mean, look, I've seen The Exorcist, as I'm sure many of you have. It's a classic film. Little graphic. But clearly, that demon could not be reasoned with. You know, the priest, he had to what did he like? He had to pray and throw some holy water on her. The poor girl possessed by the demon had to do all this stuff. You know, it'd be nice. I mean, it would have been so much easier. Granted, it wouldn't be nearly as exciting a film, but if you could reason with a demon, if you could just be like, you know, you show up to an exorcism like that and you're just like, hey, listen, you know, this whole possession thing, it's a little unfair. She didn't ask for this. It's not her fault. Clearly, you, Mr. Demon, sir, you've got some things to work out. Perhaps you should see a professional. Perhaps, you know, I could recommend a therapist or something. Maybe you just need to go on a retreat. You know, whatever it is. Maybe you just need some you time. But, you know, this whole possession thing it's just not cool. So, you know, let's be reasonable about this, you know. And, you know, you just reason with the demon. By the way, in high school, some friends and I did have a demonic death metal band called Reason with the Demon. We didn't get very far. We never even made it out of the garage. But, boy, those were great days. We made a lot of exciting music, I'll tell you that. Let's see. So we will move on from Mark Taylor. There was one other thing from Right Wing Watch that... Nah, that's all right. We'll be done with that for now. Very, very exciting, though. We always learn something from that, and boy, I love it. I just love it. But I'm not obsessed with Mark Taylor, just to be clear. The House has passed a resolution, according to thehill.com, rebuking Trump over Syria pullout. But will the Senate do the same? We shall see. But I suppose we should get into the debate. There was a debate last night, if you're all not aware. I did notice, because when the debates happen, you know, because as a political junkie, I do so love the debates. And even though this one was 3 hours long, I was able to remain conscious throughout the entire 3 hours, which was lovely. So Jenny and I watched it, and I did notice, though, I was posting, you know, on the Facebook, on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page, my usual pithy comments. Some of them witty, some of them attempts at being witty, etc. But I noticed less interaction, fewer people reacting and commenting on my comments than usual. And I kind of get the feeling that either I've driven some people away and they just don't care about what I have to say anymore, which is possible, or it may be the case that just people were not as engaged, because there were 12 people on that stage. So I guess we're at the point now where there are too few candidates to have separate debates on, on different nights. But there are too many that we can't just keep it to 10. We now have to have 12. So there were 12 candidates. And I mean, just some quick sometimes I'll go back through my Facebook comments, but I don't really want to bother. Just some quick observations about last night, and then we'll get into it a little bit deeper with some, we're going to do some fact checking today. I'm big on the fact checking because, I don't know if y'all noticed, but, professional politicians, regardless of political affiliation, not the most honest people, right? At least in terms of their public statements. They will often say things that are false and misleading. Again, I don't know if any of you have picked up on that. I assume that you have, but so I'm really big on fact checking, and I like sites like PolitiFact and factcheck.org and so forth. But so we'll get into that in a moment. But just some quick thoughts. So very, very clearly, Elizabeth Warren, you would probably know if you watched last night's debate without having seen any polling data on who the front runner is, you'd be able to figure out pretty quick that Elizabeth Warren is the front runner. And she is leading in the polls, but even without knowing that, you'd be able to figure it out because, and I played a clip at the top of the show, some of the instances of, there was a bit of a piling on of Elizabeth Warren. And in previous debates, there was a bit of a piling on of Vice President Joe Biden. So clearly that has shifted. Not only is she ahead in the polls, but apparently she's been raising more money. I saw a couple of different articles today that seem to suggest that Uncle Joe is in a bit of a cash crunch in terms of campaign fundraising and so forth, whereas Elizabeth Warren has raised a tremendous amount of money. And again, she has surged ahead in the polls. Well, maybe surge isn't quite the right word, but she is ahead. I don't know if she's ahead by a huge margin necessarily, but she is ahead. She is the front runner. And so she was treated as such because prior to last night, there really hadn't been too many attacks on Elizabeth Warren. Barely any, really. But no, but she clearly is the front runner. So that's to be expected, right? Also, but I thought Biden actually had a pretty good night. He didn't seem to have as many stumbles as he did in previous debates. I thought he seemed pretty solid. I will say this about Bernie, and I had commented on Facebook. I would have never known. I would have never suspected. I don't think anyone would have that he had just had a heart attack a couple of weeks ago, based on how he was last night. In fact, if anything, he seems stronger. I think that, the surgery that he had, and he even said in an interview afterward, he said that he thinks that he'll actually be stronger now because he's not walking around with a clogged artery. And I thought it showed last night. I think he seemed actually stronger and more steady than he has in previous debates. Because in previous debates, this particular cycle, I had actually thought at one point that Bernie, contrasting Bernie's performance during these debates with his performance in the debates when it was he versus Hillary in 2016, I thought Bernie seemed like he might have lost a step or maybe half a step, but, and he's, hey, he's 4 years older than he was 4 years ago, right? But last night, I really thought he seemed strong. I mean, I don't think it was a breakout performance for him. I don't think he had any particular moments that were really standout moments for him. But I did think that no, he seemed strong and healthy, and that the surgery probably did help him in that way. Hello to Fred Bonig, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. I thought Beto O'Rourke, I thought he was, up until a certain point, having by far his best debate performance. He seemed stronger and steadier than he has because I, like many people, have had a little bit of a difficult time taking him seriously. And it is hard to imagine him as president, I find. But I thought that he seemed more confident. Like, I remember in the first debate, and maybe even the second debate, he just didn't seem that confident and steady. But I thought he was having a good night up until, of course, we got to the part about the mandatory buybacks of certain guns, and that really became a problem for him. We'll come back to that. And Julian Castro, by the way, knocked it out of the park with his comments on Beto's gun buyback, on the mandatory aspect of Beto's gun buyback. That was an incredible moment for Julian Castro, in my opinion. But we have a call. We'll grab this. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
It's Ridley.
Oh, Dave Ridley of the Ridley Report. How are you, sir?
Did you miss me?
Well, I think you just called yesterday, so... But yes, of course we missed you. Yes. Every minute without you is unbearable, actually.
Good thing you've got virtual Dave Ridley.
Well, yes, virtual Dave Ridley. I don't know if he's here today, although he's always in our hearts. What's on your mind, Dave Ridley?
Well, did you know that I guess New Hampshire is about to become the only, I think it's going to be the only state in the union where you can vote for nobody for governor.
Where you can literally vote for nobody?
Pretty much. There's a guy who's changed his name to Nobody, and he's going to primary Chris Sununu.
Oh, all right. Is he just one name like Cher or Madonna? He's just Nobody?
I guess.
Oh.
He's a former Rich Paul.
Oh, yeah. I know Rich Paul. Wow. So he has legally changed his name to Nobody?
Yeah, and I was kind of hoping that what that means is like if he wins, then nobody's governor, and then like there's no person sitting in the governor's seat anymore. I kind of thought that was what it meant, but I think he's kind of spoiled the effect by adopting a platform.
Huh. See, if I met someone and he introduced himself as Nobody, I'd say, don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah, I guess I'd say that too.
Yeah, I'd feel bad. What did you say about a platform, Dave? I missed that. I'm sorry. Say that again.
Well, he does have a platform.
He does.
He wants to release. He wants to release all the drug offenders.
I agree with that. I've always advocated for. Well, I oppose the drug war, as I'm sure you do as well. And I absolutely would advocate for the release of. I'm handing something to someone. I would absolutely advocate for the release of all nonviolent drug offenders. Yes.
I'm guessing that so he ran for mayor in Keene, and I guess that must have come to an end because the news release calls him the former mayoral candidate, and it doesn't say how many votes he got, so he must not have gotten very many.
Well, did he run for mayor as Rich Paul or as Nobody?
Nobody.
Oh, okay. Well,
now, you'd think that people would just for fun they'd vote for for Nobody, but maybe they didn't.
I'm reminded of I hear David Lee Roth in my head. I ain't got nobody. I realize he's not the one to originally do that song. Nor am I suggesting that Rich Paul or the former Rich Paul is just a gigolo, but that's what I hear in my head when I hear the name Nobody.
Yeah.
Well. So what do you think of his chances, Dave Ridley? Think he's got a shot?
I guess I would say it depends a little bit on how he did I'd like to know more about how he did in the Keene election before I make any predictions. Obviously, I would not predict victory, of course, but
right.
You would think just for the fun effect, people have wanted to have none of the above as part of elections. That was a big thing in the Ross Perot days. There was a drive to make it in Kansas, so that you could vote for none of the above. It would have some sort of different effects from actually having to vote for one of these actual thugs that run.
Yeah, I mean my habit is when I go into the voting booth, if there's a particular office where I don't like any of the candidates or I don't know enough about the particular candidates running for that particular office, I just leave that one blank. But is there a well, we don't know who he's kind of the first one in, right, as far as someone who will oppose Governor Sununu, I suppose.
I think he's the only primary contestant that he's got to face.
Oh, so he's not so he's not running as an independent. He's actually trying to primary Sununu.
That's my understanding.
Oh, well. All right. Well, fair enough. Well, maybe I'll switch to Republican and vote for Nobody.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's who I would vote for in the primary.
Well, very good. Anything else on your mind today, Dave Ridley?
Nothing I can think of.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a quickie. Well, please give the Ridley Report a plug.
RidleyReport.com. If you go there today, you can see the government meeting trying to stop me from filming it. This happened about a week ago.
Oh, really? What government meeting was this?
It's a library. I'm visiting Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
So I went to the Colorado Springs library system has this policy that you've got to get permission to film inside the libraries, even if the libraries are hosting a government meeting.
Oh.
So I went to a government meeting and filmed.
Yeah. And so they so what did they? Well, I don't want to spoil what happens in the video, but I assume there was an objection made to your filming.
I got approached by many different bureaucrats telling me to stop filming.
Yes.
And so anyway, you can just see it all on the channel.
And that's it. Is it theridleyreport.com or just ridleyreport.com?
RidleyReport.com.
RidleyReport.com. I'm going to check that out after the show. I want to see that. I do enjoy that kind of thing. Oh, I hear the sirens. Every day, Dave. Every day at some point during my show, there are sirens outside. It's quite remarkable.
I should also correct a factual error. You can't see it all yet. I haven't uploaded it all yet. I've just uploaded the first 5 minutes of the incident.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, it's like a little teaser. All right. Well, very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for the call, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Dave Ridley leaves us. That opens up the line for you, 603-250-6007. It's too bad we didn't hear from virtual Dave Ridley today, but, can't talk.
I'm here.
Oh, he is there. Yes. Virtual Dave Ridley also joins us. But anyway,
No, okay. I'm done. I got to go.
Oh, virtual Dave Ridley is leaving already. Wow. That was a quick visit from, we got quick visits from both Dave Ridley and virtual Dave Ridley. Much quicker than usual. Let's see. So, as far as the debate last night, yeah. So, and I want to say too, Pete Buttigieg, I think, probably came off a little better than usual. Amy Klobuchar kind of seemed like she'd maybe had a bit much caffeine right before the debate. Although I enjoyed her passion. I think she comes across as very credible and competent. I will say that. Hi, welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm trying to hear you. Hold on. That's better. Is that better?
Hello?
Oh, Matt.
Yes.
Hold on.
Who is this? What's going on? All right, I don't know who that was, but they hung up already. That was very confusing. Jenny is here. And she is, I have water, but this would be even better. So this is, my friends, a mug from the Hop Knot. So, which are friends, yes. The other day, let me turn that mic on there. So the other day we had Trudy from the Hop Knot joined us on the show, and we discussed the Hop Knot, and then we got into some other things as well. Oh, I should turn this around. So,
yeah.
So they have these great mugs, so I can drink water right out of this mug. And this is water, by the way. Someone recently accused me of drinking bourbon.
Really?
On the program.
No, I will attest to the fact that if that was true, you would definitely know it because Matt would be unconscious.
I have a very low tolerance.
He has no tolerance.
But it's wonderful. Thank
it's
you
not
for
a low tolerance.